Hello guys! I hope everyone is okay and safe at home with your family. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Sarah Miller, and today I want to share with you this book called Friendly Death written by Veronica Cruz. Basically, it's my story, but for doing so, my friends Milena Orellana, Susana Estrada, and Veronica Cruz will help me tell my story. So let's start!
Hi! Okay, so to get into the business, let's analyze the book Friendly Death by taking out the story elements. And for doing that, we are going to develop the plot throughout this, as everybody knows that in every single story we have characters, right? And also we know that there are main characters and secondary characters. So now let's know the characters of this story. So as you can see over here in this picture, we have all the characters that play an important role in the story of the book. So now let's see which characters are the main ones and which are the secondary ones. So now we have Sarah Miller, that is the main character of this story. So she is a very smart girl, and also she has some qualities such as curiosity and intelligence. Then we have the little boy whose name is not mentioned in the story, but he is described physically. So he has an eyebrow cut off, his face is round, also his face is reflected by a bit of sadness, and also he has blonde hair. Basically, this character is the antagonist, and he is very important. Then we have the secondary characters. We cannot say that they are not important because basically they are. So we have Todd and Lily Miller. Basically they are Sarah's parents. Then we have Sarah's brothers, Brad and Paul. And we have Sarah's friend Ashley and her best friend Nick. So basically these are the characters that this story contains. So please take a look at them because we're going to see them sometimes in this video. So now let's move on to the setting. So basically in this story we have just 3 places. We have the first one where the story begins, and it is in Baltimore, Maryland, USA, in a neighborhood called Falwood. Then we have where the story is developed, and it is in Thompson City. And the last one, that is one of the most important ones, it is in Guilford, Maryland, where Sarah's grandfather lives. So basically these 3 are the main settings of this story.
Let's see the point of view. It is said that it's the standpoint from which a story is told. So, the point of view of this story is in the third person singular because the narrator is outside the story.
So now we can start talking about the themes that this book contains. So, we can find 4 themes. We have curiosity, supernatural, friendship, and death. So, talking about curiosity, we know, and we have to be honest with this. We as human beings are very curious, and I think that it is something very natural that comes from us. And when we don't know something, we want to discover, right? We start investigating, we start doing some things in order to know what we don't know. But let me tell you, to be curious sometimes it's okay and it's nice, but sometimes no, because as Sarah's story, we cannot control everything that we are discovering, let's say. So we have to be careful when we are curious. Then we have supernatural. So first of all, we have to ask this question. Is there life after dying? So we don't know, but maybe yes, it can be. But in this case, sometimes we can see or we can watch some videos on YouTube or on TV, that they are kind of explaining about these supernatural things or paranormal things. So basically life is strange, so we must be careful with life. Then last one, that is death. So death, we know that we cannot avoid it. So death can come in any way, and we can expect something about death, maybe to die in your bed, but death is like, it's not going to tell you how you are going to die. So basically we have to be conscious that someday we are going to die, so we don't have to be like afraid of it. So basically these are the themes. So now let's move on to the next one. Now let's go deeper and let's talk about the external conflict of this story. So basically in this book we can appreciate that the main character, who is Sarah, was in front of the main entrance of the school. So over here is where the external conflict begins. So she was in front of the main entrance, so she was waiting for her family to come. So she decided to look around, and while she was doing that, she noticed that there was a little boy near the main entrance. So for her it was very strange because there was not a place where kids like that one had to be. So she decided to go where he was because he seemed to be lost, and also he looked sad. So when she decided to give a step, so her family arrived at her place and told her to enter to school for the graduation ceremony and all this event.
While Sarah was waiting for her family to come, she saw everything that was around her. Out of sudden, she noticed that near the main entrance there was a little kid who wore a green shirt and a pair of jeans. His face was round, his hair was blonde, his right eyebrow was cut off, and he looked sad. Standing there, he seemed to be lost. Sarah was paying carefully attention to what the boy was doing. She gave a step in order to go where he was when her family arrived at her place and told her to enter to the school, for the graduation ceremony was about to start.
Following the sequence of the plot elements of the book Friendly Death, then we have the internal conflict, which starts with Sarah carelessly checking the news just for curiosity. As it is mentioned on the book, she was a very good
Emergency crews were called to the fire in the community, roughly 150 kilometers west of Wilford, shortly after 6 p.m. o'clock on Thursday, November 26, 2013. Citizens said that they started listening to some voice screams that came from the house that was at the corner of the neighborhood. After 30 minutes, the boy's mother arrived at the place, and desperately she entered to the house in order to rescue the boy. Then the emergency crews arrived at the place, but late, for a burning section of the house collapsed, trapping the kid. The woman was rushed to the hospital, but lamentably the kid was not rescued, since his body was already calcinated. It is said that this event occurred last year, since the police began an investigation to identify the origin of it. Police suspects that someone, even the boy, could cause the fire, but until all the evidence is being found, the event is called accident.
4 years passed, and Sarah continued having those strange nightmares in which a little boy appeared on her dreams. That is why our internal conflict continues, since it occurs in character's mind. And in here we can appreciate a very interesting internal conflict, since the main character, Sarah, struggles with her mind when she tries to understand why the boy appeared on her dreams. And this is a fact that takes her to psychological therapies, which are useless because she cannot control her anxiety and paranoid. At the end, she finally stopped having those strange nightmares, and this is basically her internal conflict in Friendly Death. But what is expected from the other parts of the book? When our internal resolution ends, a series of unusual events happens on the story, and there we have our racing action. The racing action starts when Mr. Smith, Sarah's professor, assigns his students a visual project, which consists on taking the best picture to their most memorable place. So Sarah chooses to photograph her old neighborhood where she used to live. When she is there, she experiences another paranormal event because she saw a little boy indicating the number 2 with his hand while he was posing to the camera. After this event, here is Sarah's dream.
In her deeper dreams, Sarah was visiting her grandfather Josh. While she was looking for the family album, she heard someone crying outside the house. Sarah saw a boy with familiar characteristics such as blonde hair and an eyebrow cut off. The boy's face expressed sadness that she had seen before. The boy told Sarah that he was lost, so Sarah told him she would help him find his mother. But first, he had to answer some questions. The boy did it, but first, he made Sarah promise she would help him every time he needed it. Sarah said, "I promise you." The boy was very happy because of that. Since this time, a person would keep the promise, not as the previous friend who died mysteriously.
The racing action ends when Sarah tells her best friend Nick about her dreams, and they both start looking for answers to solve Sarah's strange nightmares. But at the end, they cannot find anything that till that moment could be useful. So this is the end of the racing action, and it ends giving the entrance to the climax. Now let's talk about the point of greatest suspense in the story, and it occurs when Sarah decides to take a nap. But she's woken up by a loud noise, and also strange things start happening to her in her house. So she decides to follow the shadows in order to photograph the little boy. But she goes so far from home that gets tired, and then she decides to go back home. But in that moment, the voice appears, saying,
"I'm tired as you, Sarah. If you wish, we can go back home. Remember, I will be with you all the time you need me." Sarah, in shock, remembered her dreams in which she made a promise to the little boy. She said, "Wait, you were on my dreams. What do you want from me?" The boy looked at her and continued walking. Immediately, Sarah crossed the street to stop the boy and talk with him. But suddenly, a car hit her.
So, this is the place in which the following action takes place. So basically, the following action usually occurs after the climax, where all the elements with all the conflict has been solved. So, after she was hit by a car, the following action starts. So, the driver got out of the car to check if that young woman was okay. So at this moment, we don't know who the driver is. So the driver got out of the car and he saw the young woman lying on the street. The driver was Nick. It means that he was Sarah Miller's best friend. He realized that the person that was lying on the floor was one of his best friends, Sarah Miller. But then something really interesting happens. But now it is time to see.
When Sarah fell on the street, she died immediately. In spite of the fall, Sarah never released the photo.
The resolution. During the resolutions, we're going to find out all the answers to our questions. As we know, Sarah Miller was hit by a car and she died immediately. So the driver got out of the car and realizes that the young woman he had hit was her best friend. So we're talking about Nick. Her best friend was the one who hit her with a car. So he couldn't believe what he had done. So something caught his attention. He saw her body and he realized that she was holding a photo. And that photo was the picture that she had taken during her trip to the park. But the most incredible thing that boy in the picture was the same boy that he had seen in the news. But there was something different. The boy's finger no longer indicates the number 2 but 3. So, let's go to see. When the driver, who was Nick, realized what had happened at that moment, he, alarmed and shocked, got out of the car to see if that young woman was alive. Nick saw that that woman was her best friend, Sarah. He worried, touched her in order to be sure if she was alive or dead. But when he approached her, he could see something really impressive. He saw that she had a photo in her hands. He grabbed it and could see it was the photo that she had taken that Sunday in that park. Because of that park and that boy she had described. In shock, he realized that the boy who was there was the same boy that he saw in a news page. Nonetheless, something has changed. The hand of the little boy no longer indicated number 2, but number 3.
This is all for today. Thank you for watching.